Purchase Media.
On the morning of April 10th, 2001, an explosion rocked a quiet cul-de-sac in Scottsdale, Arizona. Neighbors came outside. Smoke was rising. The house at the end of the street was fully engulfed in flames.
When firefighters finally put the fire out, they found 3 bodies still in their beds. A mother, a 12-year-old girl, a 10-year-old boy. None of them had tried to escape.
The family's father, Robert Fisher, was nowhere to be found. Neither was the family dog, and neither was the mother's silver Toyota 4Runner. Robert's own brand new truck was still sitting in the carport.
Robert hasn't been seen since.
Today, we're talking about Mary Fisher, Brittney Fisher, and Bobby Fisher Jr., a woman who organized birthday parties for the neighborhood kids, a girl who played 3 sports and had just made the National Junior Honor Society, and a 10-year-old boy who played trumpet and had recently taken a hunter safety course.
We're also talking about Robert Fisher, a man who told everyone around him over and over that he would never let his family go through a divorce, and about what happened when he felt his family slipping away. I'm Amber.
And I'm Gina, and this is the story of the Fisher family and the fire that was meant to erase them.
Before we get into what happened on April 10th, let's talk about the members of the Fisher family. We're going to start with Dad, Robert William Fisher. He was born on April 13th, 1961, in Brooklyn, New York. He was the middle child with 2 sisters, and his family lived mostly in Tucson, Arizona.
In 1976, when Robert was 15 years old, his parents divorced. He and his 2 sisters went to live with their father, who was a banker. And by all accounts, that divorce absolutely wrecked Robert. We're going to come back to that because it is the thread that runs through everything in this story.
In 1979, Robert graduated from Sororo High School and enlisted in the Navy. He was stationed out of San Diego, where he trained in aircraft handling and fuels. He told friends he tried to become a Navy SEAL, but didn't make it. That failure left him bitter, and he chose not to enlist in 1982.
After leaving the Navy, Robert got a job with the Borrego Springs Fire Protection District in rural San Diego County. And then, in 1984, he met a woman named Mary Cooper through a Baptist church social group. They met, got engaged, and married, all within the course of a single year.
Shortly after they married, Robert hurt his back on a fire call. That led to lower back surgery and a medical discharge from the fire department. The surgery left him with a very distinct walk. He moved with what was described as an exaggerated erect posture, chest pushed out. That detail will matter later.
He also ended up with prescriptions for a narcotic painkiller, an anti-anxiety medication, and a muscle relaxer. He had been really into lifting weights, but a few months before the murders, he stopped because he thought the weights were aggravating his back. He'd been consulting with a doctor about a second surgery, but decided to wait.
After the move, Robert enrolled in an associate degree program in the medical field. He became a respiratory therapist and a cardiovascular technician.
According to the FBI, Robert was described by coworkers as cocky and arrogant. Others who knew him used the words aggressive and controlling.
And then there are the hunting stories. Because Robert loved to hunt and fish, but he wasn't exactly a normal outdoorsman. Friends told CNN that once, after he killed an elk, he smeared its blood all over his body. Another time on a fishing trip, he was seen swimming across a lake, holding a Bowie knife in his teeth.
That sounds like something straight out of Bear Grylls. But honestly, isn't it safer to hold it between your teeth than grip it in your hand while swimming? Seems like less of a danger, right? Either way, it does paint quite the picture.
Sadly, there's not a lot of information about the rest of the Fisher family, but here's what we know. Mary Jean Cooper was born on October 3rd, 1962, in Chicago, Illinois. Her parents were William and Virginia, and she had one sister named Myrna. The family eventually settled in Scottsdale, where her father became a school principal.
Mary was a community person. She organized parties for kids in the neighborhood and spent a lot of time at the Scottsdale Baptist Church. She sounds like someone everyone genuinely loved, the kind of person who made sure people always had somewhere to be.
And then there's Mary and Robert's firstborn, Brittney. Brittney Jean Fisher was born on April 27, 1988. She played baseball, basketball, and softball. She got good grades, and as we mentioned, she was about to be inducted into the National Junior Honor Society. That induction ceremony happened the night of April 9th, the night before everything fell apart.
And Bobby. Robert William Fisher Jr., called Bobby by his family, was born on September 21st, 1990. He played trumpet. He had recently taken a hunter safety course. He was 10 years old.
He was just a 10-year-old kid, living his life, figuring out his interests, and trusting the adults in his life to keep him safe.
So that's the family. Now, let's talk about the marriage. Because from the outside, the Fishers look like a perfectly put-together unit. Church-going, active in the community, nice house in Scottsdale, 2 kids. Robert had even nearly paid off the mortgage.
But friends who spoke to police after the murders painted a very different picture. According to the Arizona Republic, Robert was controlling and picky to an extreme. He wanted even the junk drawer in the house kept tidy. He criticized Mary for small mistakes. There were things he just couldn't let go.
There's a story about a camping trip that I think tells you everything you need to know about Robert Fisher. The families took turns cooking dinner. On one trip, the Fishers brought steak for the group, but forgot to bring salt and pepper. The other family had seasonings, so it wasn't actually a problem, it was fine.
But it wasn't fine for Robert. He kept saying, "Mary, I can't believe you forgot the salt and pepper," over and over, like it's some sort of poor reflection on them as people for not bringing basic seasonings.
You know who else could have grabbed the salt and pepper? Fucking Robert. He's definitely one of those men who expects his wife to manage absolutely everything while he does nothing. One family friend put it this way. We'd go camping and he'd say, "Mary, I want these kids in bed." Just like that. Really stern. He would boss her around.
Robert also had a rule about money. He paid the bills, and that was it. If Mary wanted anything beyond that, anything, she paid for it herself. So she took a part-time job at a medical supply company. She saved up to buy a computer and a sewing machine, and she spent her own money buying fast food treats for the kids.
This is a classic example of financial abuse, being told you're not allowed to spend anything on yourself or your kids. By doing this, Robert was trying to make Mary dependent on him. Honestly, I'm surprised he was okay with her getting a part-time job.
Robert's mother, Jan, later told investigators that she herself had been a yes sir wife who hadn't stood up to her own husband. She said she saw similar dynamics early in Robert and Mary's marriage and had gone to Mary directly about her concerns.
I wonder where Robert got that idea from then. But here's something I want to make clear. Mary wasn't passive. Friends who knew her said she had a tough side. She didn't put up with crap. She wasn't someone who cowered from an argument. According to the neighbors, you could hear her screaming at Robert through the walls of the house next door.
Mary was not a silent, suffering wife. She pushed back and eventually was seriously considering leaving, which we know can be the most dangerous time for a woman in a situation like Mary's.
Now, let's talk about the thing that is absolutely central to understanding this case. Robert Fisher's obsession with divorce.
Robert's parents divorced in 1976 when he was 15 years old. And according to everyone who knew him, that never healed. Police reports note that even 25 years after his parents split, Robert was still talking about it with coworkers. He confided to one of them that he believed his whole life could have been different if his mother hadn't left the family.
A friend from high school described Robert as very bitter about his parents' divorce. A member of his church said the divorce had been extremely difficult on him.
Robert's mother-in-law, Jenny, told investigators that Robert kept his distance from Mary's family because of what she described as a fear of getting too close to people and losing them. He, in her words, pretty much stayed away from the family.
So here's the picture. A man who, at 40 years old, was still carrying the wound of watching his parents split up, who was so afraid of losing people that he kept them at arm's length, and who was absolutely determined that his own children would not go through what he went through. Well, I hate to break it to Robert, but staying together and fighting in front of the kids all the time is not always better than divorce.
Mary's sister Myrna told Unsolved Mysteries, Robert had told my dad often that divorce was not an option. He would not be divorced like his parents were. Robert stated that several times.
The Fisher family pastor confirmed it to the Arizona Republic. He said he was adamant about not going through a divorce or putting his family through a divorce. He had strong feelings about it and a bad experience.
Adamant. That was the word people used. Not preferred not to get divorced. Adamant.
In 1998, things came to a head. Robert told Mary he had what he described as an illicit encounter during a massage.
Yeah, in layman's terms, he cheated on her, and then he told her about it.
Mary was devastated. She said she needed space, so Robert left. He went north to the forest, the place he always retreated to. He planned to camp alone for a month. He came back a few days later.
He gave Mary a letter. In it, he said he couldn't live without her, but he also made it clear, if she decided to end the marriage, he would consider killing himself. He also promised to be, in his own words, a godly father and husband. Mary let him back in, and they started counseling at their church.
Of course, she let him come back if he threatened to kill himself if he didn't. That's a classic manipulation tactic in toxic relationships, like this one.
Exactly. Robert also said to a hunting friend around this time that he was renewing his commitment to his marriage and to God because he couldn't live life without his family.
And he hinted, again, that he would consider suicide before he would consider divorce.
After counseling started, things seemed to stabilize on the surface. Friends and a men's ministry group were checking in with Robert, literally asking him things like, "How are you doing with the Lord? How's things going in the area of lust?"
Robert was even carrying 3x5 index cards with Bible verses on them to help guide his behavior. I'm sorry, but if you have to carry index cards to remind yourself not to cheat on your wife, you probably shouldn't be married.
You shouldn't be in a relationship at all if you have to write notes to yourself to stay faithful.
That's a solid point.
So fast forward to the spring of 2001. On the surface, things seemed okay. On Monday, April 9th, Robert was in a noticeably good mood at work. He asked a coworker to cover his on-call shift so he could attend Brittney's National Junior Honor Society induction ceremony that evening. He had already requested April 13th off. He was planning a family camping trip to celebrate his 40th birthday.
From the outside, this looks like a man who has it together.
But behind closed doors, the Fishers had been fighting constantly. One neighbor later told The Hunt with John Walsh they did not have a happy marriage. They screamed constantly. Everybody heard it. You could hear it in the house next door.
Here's a weird detail. The neighbor said you never really heard Robert scream. He had a way about him, of course, but neighbors always just heard Mary. screaming things like, "You're worthless. I could have done better than you. We should get a divorce."
Mary had told at least one close friend that she was seriously thinking about divorcing Robert.
Robert had also pulled away from church. A coworker told police after the murders that Robert resented how much time Mary spent there. Quote, "He felt really trapped in that church," end quote. That's what the coworker said.
So by the spring of 2001, you have a man who is terrified of divorce, who has openly said he would kill himself before letting his marriage end, whose wife is talking to friends about wanting out, who has stopped going to the place that had been helping him hold himself together.
On the night of April 9th, after Robert attended Brittney's induction ceremony, Mary and Robert got into a major argument, possibly about Mary's desire for a divorce. Like the previous arguments, the neighbors heard it.
At approximately 8:45 in the morning on Tuesday, April 10th, 2001, the Fisher home exploded.
According to Unsolved Mysteries, the explosion rocked the quiet residential neighborhood. The force of the blast ripped through the roof of the house, causing it to burst into flames. Most of the home was destroyed before firefighters could contain the fire.
When the fire was finally put out, they found Mary, Brittney, and Bobby still in their beds.
From the looks of things, none of them had attempted to flee.
Robert and the family dog, a Queensland Heeler mix named Blue, were nowhere to be found. Mary's silver 2000 Toyota 4Runner was gone, and Robert's brand new Dodge Ram truck was still sitting in the carport.
Police initially didn't know if Robert had been at work when the house went up, if maybe he didn't know what was happening. But they quickly learned he hadn't shown up that morning, and he never came home. He never came back to check on his family.
Then the autopsy results came back, and a quick warning, the details are violent.
All three bodies had been severely burned and charred, but there was no soot in their windpipes, no burns in their airways, which meant they were dead before the fire ever started. The fire didn't kill them. Someone did.
All three of their throats had been slit. Brittney and Mary had 5-inch gashes, cut so deeply that the knife left marks on their vertebrae. Mary had also been shot in the back of the head. Investigators couldn't determine whether she was shot first or had her throat cut.
2 children and their mother, killed in their beds while they slept.
The house had also been deliberately rigged to explode. A natural gas line had been disconnected from the back of the furnace. There was a candlestick holder in an odd, out-of-place location.
And there was residue of a highly flammable liquid, both throughout the house and on the bodies.
Investigators also found that a .38 caliber revolver was missing from Robert's gun safe. A not-so-pretty picture of Robert is starting to emerge. He didn't go to work, his gun was missing, Mary's car was gone, and his family was dead in their beds.
Detective John Kirkham of the Scottsdale Police Department later told Unsolved Mysteries, Robert was a very private person. Outwardly, he was perceived as a good father and a good husband, a church-going man. During the investigation, we found that Robert Fisher had a number of faces, a number of masks that he wore.
Investigators dug into everything. The marriage, the fighting, Robert's obsession with not getting divorced, Mary's conversations with friends about leaving, and the loud argument the neighbors heard the night of April 9th.
Detective Kirkham told Unsolved Mysteries that he doesn't think this was premeditated in the traditional sense. He said, I don't think that he planned that on this particular day, this is what I'm going to do. I think that it precipitated over a long period of time, and there was one thing that triggered it, and that could have been the argument.
Police believe Mary was going to leave Robert, and Robert, who had said for years that he would never let his family go through a divorce, wasn't going to let that happen. He would rather destroy his family than lose them.
Here's the theory that investigators put together. Between 9:30 and 10:15 on the night of April 9th, Robert killed his family. Then he rigged the house to explode, disconnected the gas, spread flammable liquid, placed the candle, and walked out the door, giving himself a 10-hour head start before the whole thing went up.
Another thing Detective Kirkham told Unsolved Mysteries was Robert committed the arson in order to cover up the murders, believing that the bodies would be burned beyond recognition, covering up any sign of what had happened. But it didn't cover it up quite as well as expected.
A large-scale manhunt began immediately. And for the first 9 days, there was exactly one significant lead. At 10:43 p.m. on the night of April 9th, before the house exploded, Robert appeared on an ATM camera about half a mile from the Fisher home.
He withdrew $280 in cash. It's about $526 in today's money. He was wearing an Oakland Raiders baseball cap, and Mary's 4Runner was visible in the background of the footage.
Police believe he may have been on his way out of town right at that moment, possibly before going back to commit the murders, or possibly after. They were never able to confirm the exact sequence.
As the search continued, Mary's father, Bill, spoke to reporters. He said, "Wherever you are, Robert, we love you. Just come home. I don't know what's going on. We don't know anything for sure, but we'd like to hear from you. Please, Robert."
He was still hoping, or still trying to reach him.
10 days after the fire, a camper spotted Mary's 4Runner abandoned in the woods, just east of Young, Arizona, tucked deep into the Tonto National Forest, near Robert's favorite hunting area.
The car had been wiped clean, no dust on it, very few pine needles on top of it or inside it, which suggested it had been dumped there within 24 hours of being discovered. Robert's Oakland Raiders baseball cap was inside.
And Blue, the family dog, was right there beside the car. Terrified, hungry, but not emaciated, which told investigators Robert probably hadn't been there long before abandoning the car.
Police called a veterinarian to come help Blue. The vet later adopted him. Blue went on to live another 12 years.
Oh, good. That dog deserved a good life.
Yeah, away from that crazy pants, that's for sure. Investigators, along with the SWAT team, launched an intense search of the surrounding area. Bloodhounds, helicopters. They were looking for footprints, campfires, clothing, anything that showed Robert had been there.
They found footprints leading to the mouth of a cave near where the 4Runner had been parked. The cave is known as Club 41. Its entrance sits on Fort Apache Indian Reservation land, then it snakes underground onto Tonto National Forest land for several hundred feet. The opening is large enough for adults to stand inside, but from there it narrows into a crawl space before opening into another chamber with passages branching off in multiple directions.
They searched Club 41. No Robert. They searched other caves in the area, too. The terrain was so difficult that investigators had to bring in a sewer camera to look deeper into some of them. They threw gas grenades into the openings to try to provoke any sign of life.
And nothing.
Investigators also followed footprints toward the Fort Apache Indian Reservation. But here's where things get frustrating. They didn't actually search the reservation itself, because doing so would have required requesting permission from tribal authorities.
And for reasons that have never been fully explained, they never made that request.
A snowstorm moved in a few days later. The search was called off. Robert William Fisher hasn't been officially cited since.
Investigators came up with two main theories. One, Robert went into one of those caves and died, either by suicide or by accident, maybe got stuck, maybe ran out of oxygen, and his body just wasn't found. Two, he left the 4Runner there to throw investigators off and then made a run for it.
Both were legitimate possibilities. The cave system in that area is extensive. There's no way to fully search all of it. His body could be in one of those caves and never been found. But there were also real reasons to think that he ran.
One witness said they may have seen a man matching Robert's description walking north on a road near where the Forerunner was found. And the location itself, as remote as it sounds, is only a short walk from Young Highway and less than a mile from the Fort Apache Indian Reservation. He could have hitched a ride from either spot.
This was April 2001, 5 months before September 11th. One Scottsdale detective told 12 News this was before the TSA, before heightened security for travel. The opportunity for him to travel around, to board an airplane, to drive to Mexico is definitely there.
He could have gone anywhere. With $280 in cash and a 10-hour head start, Robert Fisher could literally be anywhere in the world right now.
Police also theorized that Robert deliberately left Blue behind. A blue cattle dog is noticeable. Traveling with one would make Robert easier to identify. He left his dog on the side of the road in the woods so he could disappear more cleanly.
Okay, let's just be honest here, Blue is better off without him anyway.
Too true. There was also a third possibility, that Robert went into the forest intending to live off the grid. A few days before the murders, he went to a sporting goods store and bought a water filter and dozens of water purification tablets. He asked the clerk specific questions about purifying water. It gave the impression he was planning to be out there for a while.
But his own hunting buddy, Jim, pushed back on that. He told the Arizona Republic that Robert had such a bad back that Jim had to carry Robert's duffel bag for him on one of their hunting trips. The idea of this man surviving alone in the wilderness long-term didn't hold up.
And also, Robert had that birthday camping trip planned for April 13th. It's possible he bought the water purification tablets for that. We just don't know.
On July 19, 2001, a state arrest warrant was issued charging Robert with 3 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of arson of an occupied structure. A federal warrant followed, charging him with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution.
Then in June 2002, a little over a year after the murders, the FBI added Robert Fisher to their 10 most wanted fugitives list. He became the 475th person ever placed on that list, which has existed since 1950. A $50,000 reward was announced for information leading to his arrest.
That same month, Unsolved Mysteries aired an episode on the case. Robert's sister Gina appeared on camera. She said, quote, "My brother loved his kids and his wife. There's no way I would have imagined any of this. I trusted my brother with my life. There's no way I would have thought he would be capable of this." End quote.
Jean also said she couldn't figure out where Robert could even be. She said, quote, "Where would he be? And how could he have gotten to where he would be? He didn't take any money with him, and he would be in so much physical pain from his back. I don't know if he did this. I don't know how he could be alive, knowing how much my brother loved his family." End quote.
Detective Kirkham said he believed Robert was alive. He said there are various places near where the Forerunner was found that one could use a phone, catch a ride, that sort of thing. He has probably started a new life under an assumed identity.
Mary's sister Myrna believed the same thing. She told Unsolved Mysteries, quote, "If Robert wanted to kill himself, he would have done it when he killed Mary, Brittney, and Bobby. That's my belief. So I do believe Robert is alive." End quote.
So tips kept coming in over the years. In February 2004, a man in White Rock, British Columbia, was browsing the FBI website when he came across Robert Fisher's picture. He was convinced that his neighbor's boyfriend looked exactly like Robert. He called the Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
When police went to take a look, the man in White Rock matched Robert's description almost exactly. Same short hair, a similar surgical scar on his lower back. He was missing a tooth in the same place where Robert's gold crown had been. Both men were 6 feet tall, with brown hair and blue eyes.
Investigators had one of Robert's former neighbors, who happened to live near the U.S.-Canada border, drive up and look at the man. That neighbor also thought the White Rock man looked just like Robert.
But fingerprints don't lie. The man was not Robert. He was a Canadian resident who was 2 years older.
Over the years, America's Most Wanted generated tips that had Robert showing up everywhere. A mall food court in British Columbia, an apartment complex in Willowbrook, Illinois, a 7-Eleven in Ormond Beach, Florida, a Walmart in Little Rock, Arkansas.
But none of them were Robert.
In October 2014, a Denver resident called police saying he was certain a man he'd met 2 weeks earlier was Robert Fisher. When officers went to interview the man, he and another man were standing outside next to a green BMW. An officer pointed his gun and told them to put their hands up.
Both men ran.
They were eventually caught. They said they ran because they were scared. Fingerprints confirmed? Also not Robert.
In April 2016, 15 years after the murders, the FBI released age-enhanced photos of Robert, who would have been turning 55 that week. Digital billboards went up across Arizona displaying his face and information. The reward was raised to $100,000. The FBI reminded the public that Robert was believed to be in possession of several weapons, including a high-powered rifle, and should be considered armed and dangerous. He has known ties to New Mexico and Florida.
In April 2021, 20 years had passed since Mary, Brittney, and Bobby were killed. Scottsdale police and the FBI were still receiving tips every single week, but nothing had ever panned out into a confirmed sighting.
A Scottsdale detective told 12 News, quote, "We haven't had a verified sighting that we can turn back and say, yes, this was definitely Robert Fisher. It's hard to think that he's still alive, but in my mind, I have to believe that he's still out there," end quote. Robert Fisher looked like a fairly average guy. He doesn't stand out in a crowd, which is honestly probably why so many people have thought that they saw him, because he does look like an average guy. He could be anyone.
Yep, and so that supports the theory that the possibility that he got out, lived for a while under a different name, and maybe he eventually died somewhere in another country, in another city, as someone else entirely.
The FBI's official position is that they are treating the case as if Robert is still alive. They told 12 News, quote, "We don't want him to feel we're not out there looking for him anymore. That's just not the case," end quote.
Also, in April 2021, the Arizona Republic published a multi-part investigative series on the Fisher family murders. Robert's sister Jean spoke to the Republic. She said her brother was loving and caring toward his family, that he was not a monster like the newspapers and TV shows have made him out to be.
Jean told the Republic that she was holding out hope the police and the FBI were wrong, that they just haven't found enough information to look any other place.
She pointed out that the weekend before the house blew up, Robert had been up on the roof fixing the air conditioner, that he'd almost paid off the mortgage. Jean said if Robert had planned this, he wouldn't have been working so hard on a house he was about to destroy.
Agree to disagree.
But also, they didn't think that it was premeditated in the traditional sense that...
Yeah, I don't think that he was up there fixing a roof thinking, I'm going to blow this house up in a week. I think he snapped and killed them and blew the house up to cover his tracks.
Crime of passion that he was able to somewhat plan out.
Agreed. Jean also pushed back on the divorce theory specifically. She said, quote, "Just because someone doesn't want a divorce in their life doesn't mean they are going to kill people because of it."
I understand why Jean feels that way. Losing a brother, not knowing for certain, watching the person you loved be defined in the press as a monster. That's its own kind of suffering. And she and her sister have spent 20 years without answers. Their parents lost a son.
But the evidence doesn't bend around feelings. 3 people were dead in their beds before the fire started. Their throats were slit. The house was deliberately rigged to explode. The gun was gone, the car was gone, Robert was gone.
It would almost be easier to believe he didn't have anything to do with it if the dog, Blue, hadn't been found next to Mary's abandoned 4Runner. He obviously had the foresight to get himself and the dog out of the house before it exploded, and he knew he couldn't take Blue with him, wherever it was he went.
On November 3rd, 2021, Robert William Fisher was removed from the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list. Not because he was found or the case was solved, but because the FBI determined his case no longer met the criteria for the list.
The FBI released a statement, quote, "Because the extensive publicity Fisher's case received during its nearly 20 years on the list has not resulted in his successful location and or capture, the case no longer fulfills that requirement," end quote.
Nearly 20 years. $100,000 reward. Age-enhanced photos on billboards, national television campaigns, and nothing.
He remains a fugitive. The FBI is still looking for him, and the tips still come in every week.
The FBI agent in charge of the case told the Arizona Republic, quote, "We don't know exactly what happened, and I think their families, both Robert and Mary's, deserve that information at this time," end quote.
Both families. Because the people who loved Robert are also still waiting. They don't know with certainty what he did. They don't know if he's alive. They've been living in that uncertainty for over 25 years.
I don't see how he could not have done it. I don't see any other theory that makes sense for why he was seen on an ATM late at night, the morning before this happened, and his car was found abandoned and the dog was there, and he wasn't in the house with the rest of his family if he didn't have something to do with it.
Right. I mean, he would have gone back to check on them. He would have come and found out, he would have something. He would have contacted a family member. He would have anything. But no, he just went completely off the grid.
I think Mary threatened divorce too many times and he snapped.
Unfortunately.
And he probably should have been going to therapy a long time ago to deal with his hangups about divorce, or maybe have a conversation with his mother to understand why she wanted that divorce and they did divorce, because it sounds like his father may have been pretty similar to how he was as a partner. He could have learned something.
Also, unfortunately.
If you have any information about Robert William Fisher, and he could be anywhere at this point, living under any name, please contact your local FBI field office or submit a tip at tips.fbi.gov. His physical description is as follows: white male, approximately 6 feet tall, brown hair, blue eyes, around 190 pounds in 2001. He walks with an exaggerated upright posture due to back surgery and has a surgical scar on his lower back. He had a gold crown on his upper left tooth at the time of the murders and was a heavy tobacco chewer. He has ties to New Mexico and Florida and should be considered armed and dangerous.
We'll link the FBI's wanted page and the Arizona Republic's full investigative series in the show notes. If you want to go deeper on this case, the reporting is really thorough and worth your time.
We want to give a shout out to Haley Gray for her research on this case. Thorough and awesome as always. And a quick side note, apologies for any background noise on my part. My neighbors are digging for a pool, and so there's a lot of noise happening next door. I'm very excited for them and not at all jealous. If you do enjoy the show, please take 2 minutes to leave us a 5-star rating wherever you're listening. It really does help other people find us, and it makes our day. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Weird True Crime. We post episode images, reels, and memes, so come hang out with us over there. Until next time, stay safe.
And make good choices. Bye.
Bye.